Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna take a look at Trevenant with this newly nerfed Seed Bomb. Since the beginning of the season, Seed Bomb now does 5 more damage, but it also takes 5 more energy to get to, meaning Trevenant has to expend 6 Shadow Claws instead of only 5 in order to get to a move, which on a very glassy Pokemon like Trevenant can make the world of difference. And it has seen Trevenant plummet from one of the best Pokemon in Great League all the way down to 74th on the Open Great League rankings. But is Trevenant actually as bad as the rankings would suggest, or is it still good? And does this Azumarill double ghost team still work as well as it used to? Let's take a look. Going into the first game, we lead into a Deoxys. It's a pretty neutral lead, but we have 2 better responses in the back, and also this is an APB team, so we want to use Sableye to try and lure out the Dark or a normal type so Trevenant doesn't have to see them. We lure out a Shadow Alone and Sandslash, and because they swapped out so quick, if you have 2 Shadow Claws advantage, you can win every even shield scenario with Sableye, but because we only got 1, they can win the zeros or the 2 shields. But because they decided to no-shield the first foul play, we can just shield once and farm them all the way down, and now we can get Trevenant onto the Deoxys by winning switch advantage. And also come out with a lot of energy for whatever they bring in. They're probably not going to bring in the Deoxys, I'm thinking. They bring in a Lickitung, we get to the return. They should do quite a lot of damage to the Lickitung. It does land, does quite a lot of damage. And now we're of course going to bring in a Azumarill on the Lickitung. And they farm up a lot of energy, go for a move. I'm assuming it's the Power Whip, because when I have 1 shield, they should be less incentivized to bait. And then they try to catch a move on Deoxys. We swap in Trevenant. And this is a pretty good spot. They go up to right before we get to the Shadow Ball, and then they throw their first Psycho Boost, which is a pretty good play by my opponent. I let them get to another one as well, because if I take them out now, they're just going to get a lot of farm on Lickitung. And also I wanted more energy on my Trevenant. I go for the Shadow Ball. Looking back at it, a Seed Bomb does about 28%. I think I could have done 1 more Shadow Claw and then CMP'd them with a Seed Bomb, and it would have been enough to take them out. And maybe I could have got to 2 Seed Bombs on Lickitung. I don't think I would have been able to, especially not since the nerf, but maybe pre-nerf would have been able to get to 2 Seed Bombs on Lickitung. They get a pretty big farm down on Trevenant. They have quite a lot of energy on this Lickitung. We get to the first Ice Beam. They have to shield it, of course. And then they go for a move. We are very close to Power Whip range with Azumarill, and they bait us with a Body Slam. Can they get to another one? No, they cannot. We just about outpaced them. In the game, I feel like they were like 1 lick away from the Power Whip if I counted correctly, so that was very close. Next game, lead into an Altaria. Dream lead, they swap into a Ninetales. They really do not have a response to Azumarill. I just stay in to do some bubble damage. I want them to throw a move, which I'm thinking at the moment, I can take anything from a Ninetales. It's either Size Shock or something, but they have Solar Beam, and we just get 1 shot, and that's Azumarill gone. Just a huge misplay by my part to completely forget about Solar Beam. That's really the reason why I wanted to show this game. Spoiler alert. We're gonna lose this. I'm just gonna fast forward because they have an Altaria and then they also have a Scrafty in the back. I just wanted to show the beam really, and sometimes I make mistakes as well. As you can see, the Scrafty takes my Sableye out here towards the end. Yeah, that is a good game. Nice spice by my opponent to have Solar Beam. Next game, lead into another Deoxys. I faced so many of these in the lead. This time they counter swap a Credilli onto my Sableye. Fun fact about this, Credilli wins the zeros and 1 shield straight Rock Slide, but according to the Sims, Sableye wins the 2 shields. But if Credilli can get a bulk point on the Sableye Shadow Claws, it can actually win the 2 shields as well, because 1 foul play is not enough to take out Sableye. This Credilli, however, does not get that bulk point, so we can win the 2 shields. As you can see, I overfarm a lot. It takes 4 for the first Rock Slide and then 3 for the next 3. So I overfarm a lot, and then I think maybe they miscounted because they had the Rock Slide here, but they decided not to throw it and let me get to another foul play instead. So now we can flip this matchup without going down shields, which is very nice. And also they bring in a Wall Rain, and we even get to another move on Sableye, another foul play. This is very nice. Now we're of course going to bring a Azumarill onto the Wall Rain, so we can bring Trevenant onto the Deoxys. And once again, another very good game. I'm just kind of showcasing these because people are counter swapping Alolan Sandslash and Credilli, and they're just not really like the proper counter swaps for Sableye, which is also why Sableye is such a good save swap, I guess. And my opponent, realizes they're not gonna win and concede the match. Next game, we lead into a Ninetales. Good lead. but they swap into a Lickitung. This is not ideal because we don't really have a counter swap to this at all. And also people are asking how I'm counting one turn moves. I'm counting Azumaril's bubbles. So every bubble is 3 licks. So they're 18, 21, 24, 26 because they only did 2 before throwing this. And then they threw a power whip that's minus 17, so that's 9. So 12, 15, 16. Now we go for another play rough. They do decide to shield this. Now we can bring in Sableye because they're in 1 foul place range. 20, 22, 24, 26. I don't think they got in one more because they threw in bad timing, so they should be at 26. Then they go for another power whip, so they're at 9 again. Then they bring in Dragonair. We go for the foul play because I think we can get to 2. Otherwise, if we only get to 1, we would go for the return. Go for the first one. Maybe they miscounted again, so we get to another foul play before they get off their move, and they either the shield or let the Dragonair go. They bring back in the Lickitung. We get in 2 more Shadow Claw, 2.5, so they must be at like 14 or something. And then they go for 11 more, so I think they're at like 25. And then they go for Power Whip. The third is only 16, so they should be at 9. And that's how I'm counting the Lickitung's energy, basically. I know it's a lot of math, and you have to... Yeah, math. I know people don't like math. But yeah, we take it out with Trevenant so they can bring Azumarill onto the Ninetales. And I actually make a bit of a mistake here, because I thought that it takes 16 turns to get to a Weather Ball and an Overheat, but it actually only takes 15. So I thought I could shield this safely, but they're 1 away. And for some reason they're not throwing it. I'm pretty sure they had it there, because it takes 6 and then only 9 after the Weather Ball. But they let us get to an Ice Beam before they throw their Overheat. And Overheat would do about 34%. I think Azumarill would have just about survived it and gotten off the Ice Beam. But because they let us get to the Ice Beam first, we for sure put them into a range where Trevenant can handle them. And that is a good game. Next game we lead into another kind of fun fire type in Victini. I've been seeing some fun leads today and fun teams in general. They go for a Psychic immediately, takes 7 for the Psychic and Overheat, and then takes 5 for the V-Crate. They overfarm a little bit. We swap into Sableye. Once again, I want to lure out a normal or a dark type, so Trevenant don't have to see them. It doesn't have to see him. We lure out the Scrafty, which is pretty good. And I'm thinking they probably don't want their Scrafty up against an Azumarill. So I'm thinking they want to just let this go, which is why I go for the return and don't bother with baiting. I could shield this, farm them down, come out with a lot of energy, but shields down is not a nice place to be against the Victini, because it just hits so hard against everything. So I would rather get some energy in Trevenant, and that way we should be able to handle the Victini with both Pokemon. They do go for a V-Create immediately. As I said, they did 3 quick attacks before, and now they did 2 more, so it's 5 for the V-Create. They bring in a Double, we bring in a Azumarill, and Double is really not the Pokemon we want to see here. They shield the Play Rough. I think it does more damage than a Seed Bomb to a Double. I'm actually not 100% sure about that. I'm going to check that in real time once again. Seed Bomb does about 33%, and a Play Rough does about 36%. So yes, it is correct for the opponent to shield the Play Rough on Double if they want Double to win this game. Also, they overfarmed so much that they actually come out with an entire payback for my Trevenant, and they throw immediately. It is the payback, so now they should be 5 away from the next one. If you have a 2-turn move against a 3-turn move, you want to throw in the middle of their first move or in the middle of their third move. So you see I threw in the middle of their third move, and I'm anticipating the catch, and they do try to catch. There's 5 away from the next V-Crate, so we do 4 more Shadow Claws, go for the Seed Bump onto the Victini. They should take out the Victini. Now we have another Seed Bomb for the Double, and because of the buff, or like the damage buff, I think that might have made a difference for this Seed Bomb. So Trevenant actually ends up getting a sweep there. Spoiler alert, Trevenant really isn't as bad as the rankings would make it seem to be. It still wins all the matchups you wanted to win. Once again here, I want to check if they have a normal type or a dark type in the back after taking a move, so swap into Sableye, but my opponent simul swaps a Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff. Yikes. So we do get to the returns just about, which is pretty nice, but they get off 7 charms, so they should be 3 away from a move. I completely disregarded them potentially having Disarming Voice here. The Wigglytuff would get to the Disarming Voice a lot quicker if they had it, which is the new move it has. But it looks like they don't have it. since they threw this late. They also shielded the move. We cannot let the Wigglytuff get through our Azumarill because Trevenant can't really handle it quick enough because the Shadow Claws do no damage. So we kind of have to farm it down with the Azumarill. We get quite lucky with farming it all the way down, coming out with a lot of energy. So now we can get a Play Rough off on the Machamp. We get a shield, swap into Trevenant, they swap into Diggersby. And this is a matchup that is very, very much affected by the Diggersby. Before, with a shield up, Trevenant needed 1 Shadow Claws advantage to take out a Diggersby in the 1-0 shield. But because it takes 2 more turns or 2 more Shadow Claws to get to 3 Seed Bombs now, you actually need 3 Shadow Claws advantage to take out a Diggersby in this situation. And we only got 2. So as you can see, we get to the back-to-back Seed Bomb, but we CMP tire them on the first one, meaning they're gonna get off this Fire Punch to take out the Trevenant, and the Seed Bomb is just barely not enough. So this is a situation where Trevenant has really been nerfed because it cannot take out the Diggersby quick enough. It was also a bad matchup before, but now it's just even worse. Next game, we lead into a Noctowl. Very pretty Noctowl. They throw moves after 8, which is pretty bad timing. Again, if you have a 2-turn move as they do, you want to throw in the middle of the first bubble or the third bubble. I threw in the middle of the 6th. Or like, you want to throw in the middle of any uneven number of bubbles. Once again, they throw in really horrible timing here, letting me get an entire bubble through. I also decided to throw in bad time because they're 1 away from the back-to-back Sky Attack. So I want to get off this Ice Beam before they get to the second one. And they shield it. And I am foolishly thinking, you know what? Up a shield, my Ghost types are probably going to be good against whatever they have in the back when they lead Noctowl. But do you have any idea how difficult it is to Shadow Claw Noctowl down? Like, these Shadow Claws are just doing nothing. And they also decide to no-shield the Sableye. And then they swap into a Shadow, Alolan Sandslash. And pretty lucky that we get to see it here and not on Trevenant. Because you kind of need Sableye to take care of this. So we also kind of need to shield this because otherwise the Shadow Claws will simply do too much damage to the Trevenant. And now we have to hope that we can farm them down before they get to another one. But we cannot. So we have to expend another foul play in order to take out this Alolan Sandslash, which just renders Sableye completely useless. We bring in Trevenant, they bring in Medicham, which is really nice. Get to a nice punch. We can't shield this because if we shield it, the Noctowl is going to outpace the 2 Sky Attacks. So we have to let this go. And then I make a bit of a misplay here. I go for a Shadow Ball 1 before they get to another move. I should just shield this and then keep hold of my energy. Because now I'm not getting to 2 Seed Bombs on the Noctowl. So I decide I'm not getting to 2 moves. I'm going to have to try and farm this down. Because Sableye is not getting to another move. But they make a huge mistake. Because they're not getting to 2 moves either. So when they go for this, I get another Shadow Claw through. And that actually ends up making the difference. We farm them down. Shadow Claw them all the way down. And that is a good game. Next game, lead into a Quagsire. They usually have a flying type behind a Mudboy. Or a lot of the time, so you have to swap out here to try and lure out the Noctowl. We swap into Sableye, and they swap into a Whimsicott. In the 2 shields, you can actually win this straight foul play according to the Sims, if they have Grass Knot and Moonblast. But if the Whimsicott is just a little bit more defense weighted, as in is it not default IVs, it like the Shadow Claws just like you don't do quite enough damage to do it. Also they have Seed Bomb, so they get to the moves a little bit quicker. It takes 5 to get to Seed Bombs as opposed to the 6 it takes for the Grass Knot. It also takes 7 for the Moonblast, so I realized they're not going to get to a Seed Bomb and a Moonblast. They will get to 2 Seed Bombs, but winning switch here is really huge. If it's a flyer in the back, I can get Trevenant onto Quagsire and then Azumarill onto the flyer. So I do decide to spend the second shield with my Sableye. Do come out with a return for the Quagsire. But I think my opponent probably realizes what I have in the back because this is a quite common team. So bring in the Trevenant, they bring in the Noctowl, we bring in Azumarill. Now we have to hope Azumarill can handle this Noctowl because Trevenant most certainly cannot. We do have quite a big energy head start, but they have a shield head start, or a head start, no, shield advantage. I don't think you can have a shield head start. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not an English major, but I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. Go for another Ice Beam, but they will be able to outpace me here. They go for a very smart move here, because I'm not sure if Sky Attack is enough. So they actually go for the Shadow Ball, and it just about takes out a Sumeral. Can we get to a Seed Bomb on Trevenant? No, it is just a tad too slow. Also, it wouldn't have KO'd, but it's better for the storyline to say that it's a tad too slow. That was the last battle for today, and overall I think this team has gone from being one of the best teams in Great League to a good but not great team. It still definitely works, and I definitely went positive with it, but you can feel the nerf to Trevenant. Trevenant still beats the water types, the Medicham, Deoxys, Cresselia, Registeel, Galarian Stunfisk, and those Pokemon that you want it to beat. It just does it less convincingly, and Pokemon like Galarian Stunfisk and Swampert need less energy in order to overcome the matchup. Like Shadow Swampert now only needs 3 much shots advantage in order to beat Trevenant in the 2-shield scenario, and you know how good Shadow Swampert users are at getting that energy advantage. But other than that, if you like what you see or feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.